Good evening. I'd like to call to order the City Council meeting for the City of Wheat Ridge, Colorado for January 9th, 2023. If you would please stand as you are able and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Would the clerk please call the roll of the members?
Judy Hutchinson.
Present.
Scott Ohm.
Here.
Rachel Holteen.
Present.
Janice Hoppy.
Present.
Amanda Weaver.
I'm here.
Corey Stites.
Present.
Leah Dozman.
Here.
Valerie Nosler-Beck.
Here.
Mr. Mayor, all 8 members of council are present. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Councilors, in your packet, we have several minutes. We have the City Council meeting minutes for October 10, 2022, City Council meeting minutes for November 28, 2022, City Council meeting minutes for December 12, 2022, and study session notes dated December 19, 2022. Are there any corrections? Councilor Hoppy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I noticed in October 10, November 26, and December 12, there were a few opportunities where the seconded council member was not listed. It was omitted by accident. I gave that list to the city clerk for it to be added to the minutes.
Okay. Are there any other revisions called for? So with the exception of those items which the clerk will make, we will let the minutes stand as corrected.
Thank you.
Any corrections to, or any changes to the agenda that anyone wishes to note? I see none, so we'll let the agenda stand as presented, and we have several proclamations this evening. I'd like to invite Paige Piper up here to join me, because we are going to present some awards for the Art Scholarship Award presentation. That's where we are now. The City of Wheat Ridge would like to recognize its very first award winners for Art in the Barn Youth Scholarship Award. This scholarship was developed to encourage continued arts education for our local youth in the Wheat Ridge community. The fundraising event for this scholarship took place in June 2022 at an event called Art in the Barn, which showcased local artists and musicians as part of a silent auction. The event was developed and supported by the City of Wheat Ridge Creates, Local Works, the Neighborhood Gazette, and 5 Fridges Farm. Following the event, the applications were submitted for review by the Evaluation Committee, who volunteered their time and expertise to determine the awardees. Thank you to the committee members, Guy Namiach, Lori Ann Levy-Holm, Paula Wines, and Stephanie Taylor. I'm now pleased to turn the program over to Executive Director of Local Works, Paige Piper, to say a few words.
Every time. Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. I'll be brief. Local Works is just so very honored to work with the Gazette and Wheat Ridge Creates and the City of Wheat Ridge on this incredible scholarship fund. And as many of y'all know, the mission of Local Works is to make Wheat Ridge a more vibrant and sustainable place to live and work. And how we do that is through our incredible youth. We have the most incredible youth community in Wheat Ridge, so we're so honored to honor that next generation of who is going to continue to make this community special and honor the 2 amazing recipients this evening. So thank you.
Thank you. I would now like to recognize our 2 award winners. The scholarship requires that applicants are either Wheat Ridge residents or students at Wheat Ridge High School. And we are really excited that both of our award winners are currently seniors at Wheat Ridge High School. As part of the application process, the students were asked to submit an artist intent statement, images of 5 to 7 pieces of their artwork, and a letter of reference. The winners were then selected by the Evaluation Committee. And now I'm really pleased to share our first Art in the Barn Youth Award Scholarship winners, who will each be receiving $1,000 to be used towards continuing art education. And please help me recognize Peyton Perrin and Rebecca Southern, if they'd please come forward. Sure can. Come on close. See more flashbulbs going off. Congratulations. I think we've got. Sure. Okay. Okay. Here we go. Okay. Now, wait a minute, we're not done yet. We're going to go up and get council. If everybody would sort of join me in front of council, our city councilors like to get in on the action, so come on up here. I'm glad this is an annual award, so we can look forward to having it another year. So terrific. And I attended that event. We actually bought a really nice painting there. So I want to thank everybody that was involved with it. We had 5 fridges, and we have the paper, and it's a great award. I have a proclamation for National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day, which is actually today, January 9th, and I'd like to invite Officer Molly Stark to come forward and help us with the presentation. Nice to see you here. Happy New Year. This is a proclamation in support of National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day, recognizing Monday, January 9th, 2023, as National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day. Whereas in 2015, Law Enforcement Appreciation Day was founded to highlight the support and appreciation by the general public for law enforcement. And whereas, by founding the National Day of Recognition, the founders hoped to draw attention to the dedication of law enforcement officers who serve the public and make a difference while doing a job they love. And whereas, National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day helps generate awareness of the dangers law enforcement officials face every day on the job to protect our communities and of the sacrifices made by their families. And whereas, tragically last year, 2 officers lost their lives in the line of duty on 2 separate occasions, including Arvada Police Officer Gordon Beasley on March 22nd and Boulder Police Officer Eric Talley on June 21st. Both died while protecting our communities from active shooters. And whereas, on December 28th, 2021, Lakewood Police Agent Ashley Ferris saved countless lives by shooting the suspect during a mass casualty event that left her critically injured. And whereas not only do professionals in law enforcement serve and protect by putting themselves in danger every day, but they safeguard life and property, provide protection against violence and disorder, and shield the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression and intimidation. Now therefore, I, Bud Starker, and the City Council for the City of Wheat Ridge, call upon all those living and working in Wheat Ridge, upon our business community, and those in service, civil, and educational organizations to join us in recognizing National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day 2023, to honor the service of women and men in the Wheat Ridge Police Department and those across the country who serve their communities in law enforcement, dated this 9th day of January, 2023. Thank you for your service. Would you like to say a few words?
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. I'd be happy to accept this proclamation for all the men and women that work for the Wheat Ridge Police Department. We appreciate your recognition and your support for our continued efforts to make the City of Wheat Ridge a safe and inviting place for all its citizens and all the people who come to visit. So thank you.
Thank you. We have another proclamation, and I would like to invite Lauren Mikulak to come forward to accept this. Lauren is our Interim Community Development Director. Happy New Year. Nice to have you with us. Thank you. This is a proclamation in support of National Radon Action Month, January 2023. Whereas radon is an invisible, odorless, radioactive gas that threatens the health of our community. And whereas radon is a leading environmental cause of cancer mortality in the U.S. and the 8th leading cause of cancer mortality overall. And whereas the Colorado Rocky Mountain region has been ranked Zone 1 by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency as an area with the highest potential radon possible. And whereas any home in Wheat Ridge, Colorado may have elevated levels of radon, even if homes in the same neighborhood do not. And whereas it is important to support recommended radon practices and policies to reduce radon exposure and protect our community's health and welfare. And whereas testing for radon is simple and inexpensive, and when identified, radon exposure can be addressed effectively. And whereas, in adopting the 2018 International Codes on January 13th, 2020, City Council adopted Appendix F in the International Residential Code, requiring a minimum of passive radon mitigation in new residential construction to mitigate the transfer of radon gases from the soil into the home. And whereas Jefferson County Public Health, the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, the United States Environmental Protection Agency, and the American Lung Association are supporting efforts to encourage Americans to test their homes for radon, reduce elevated levels of radon, and build new homes with radon-resistant features. Therefore, be it resolved that I, Bud Starker, Mayor of the City of Wheat Ridge, and the Wheat Ridge City Council formally designate January 1 through 31, 2023 as National Radon Action Month, dated this 9th day of January, 2023. And Lauren, thank you for you and your department's work in helping people take care of radon. Thank you. Say a few words.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. On behalf of the Building Division and Community Development Department, as you heard, we do now require the passive ventilation in new homes. And for those of you who don't have that, or you want to know what your radon levels are, just wanted to share that Jefferson County Public Health has kits for sale. They're only $10. You can pick that up at the county, set it in the ground floor of your structure for a few days, mail it in, and get your lab results within 8 days. So $10, Jefferson County Public Health. Thank you.
$10 8 days. A good buy.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we are now at our public's right to speak portion of our agenda today. The public may speak on any item not on the agenda for a maximum of 3 minutes under our public's right to speak. When I read your name, if you would please come to the podium and give us your first name and your last name. If you'd please spell your last name and give us your address for the record. And I want to also say that we have a special study session at the end of our regular session, and we will take comment on the agenda items that are on the special study session, and that is the short-term rental lodgers tax, and item 2 is drive-by shooting incidents in Wheat Ridge. So my first speaker is Edward Flieger. If you'd like to come to the podium. And Joseph Crowns is on deck, and you'll have 3 minutes, and the clerk is going to turn on some lights when you start speaking after you've introduced yourself. And I think when the yellow light comes on, you're getting close to the end, and when the red light comes on, please wrap up your remarks.
So it is Edward Fligler, F-L-E-E-G-L-E-R, and I live at 3812 Taft Court here in Wheat Ridge. So in 2008, I should first say Happy New Year to Mr. Mayor and the City Council. But in 2008, I left the city where I had practiced medicine for some time. And I left writing this article related to a well-known physician who is a surgeon by the name, and a friend, Atul Gawande. He wrote a book entitled Better, A Surgeon's Perspective, Notes on Performance. In it, he talked about being a positive deviant, a positive deviant. Last week we had a lot of negativity and at a national level, and it seems to continue. But I wanted to come here tonight to talk about an event that occurred on 1/5/23, last Thursday. An amazing event that will impact the future of Wheat Ridge, with an announcement that came from Intermountain Healthcare and the University of Colorado. They're creating what is termed a clinically integrated network. An organization that, as they announced, UC Health and Intermountain Healthcare announced a new partnership on Thursday that I wanted to make sure that the mayor and city council knows, because this is very important for the Legacy campus and the future of health and well-being for the entire community of Wheat Ridge. This is about physicians. and making sure that physicians become not only, see my light is flashing here, but so I better hurry up a bit, but that they'll remain in this lovely Western community and help to preserve health and wellness for generations to come. Perhaps this story might help. Two friends go to the Rockies game. As they park their car, the driver gets out of the car and drops his keys. The passenger gets out and proceeds to go around to help the driver, but the driver goes over underneath the street light to look for his keys. The passenger says, "What are you doing?" "They dropped over here in the dark." He said, "Yeah, but the light is better over here." Well, that's relevant because what happened last Thursday was a huge floodlight was turned on as to what Intermountain plans to do for our lovely community to elevate not only the present excellent quality of care, but make it a top 5 vertically integrated system for this city. And I felt that, Mr. Mayor, members of City Council, you all needed to know this as we watch the drama unfolding in Washington, D.C. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor.
The red light is on.
Joseph Crowns is our next speaker. And Mandy Erickson is on deck.
It's Joseph Crows, C-R-O-W-S, 3720 Yukon Court, Wheat Ridge. I'm a native of Colorado. I live in Wheat Ridge for the last 30 years. I'm back here again to address the issue with Raising Cane's Chicken Fingers, about the music, about the employees on the 6:30 p.m. to 4 o'clock in the morning out there raising hell, spinning donuts in the parking lot, taunting us residents. I have 6 letters from 6 residents. I live on site, I'm the property manager, of these issues that have not been addressed by City Council. I begged almost to ask for some help. I did get a call from Patrick. He didn't leave his last name. He said he worked for the city of Wheat Ridge. He gave me Robert Turner, the developer's number for that location, 38th and Wadsworth. I talked to Mr. Turner. He said he would go talk to Cane's and address it. Gave him all the information that I have, videos of kids spinning their cars out, doing donuts at 3 o'clock in the morning in the parking lot, blasting their horn. It goes on and on and on all the time. I wasn't able to be here during the time of election because you guys were closed during the election time in Wheat Ridge. So I'm back, finishing with Robert Turner, very disappointed. I sent him videotape, through my phone, photographs through my phone of all of this going on, and to no avail, never had another conversation with Mr. Turner after that. Very, very disappointed, because he holds Cane's lease. And you guys have a part in this too, because you run the city. This is our home. This is a business that came from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, to open up shop. This isn't about their chicken. It's about their employees on that shift that just seem to just feel that they can just do as they please. And I don't know what to do anymore. I'm begging you guys to please step in, whoever is the district person for that area, to please contact us. There are eight of us that want to sign a petition, a writing of some type to let you guys know that this is serious. It's not just Joseph coming here and saying that, hey, it's my problem. Is this old man complaining? He's just old. No, no, no. This is my home, and I love my home. And I don't want to be forced to have to move out of there. I've been living in that place for 12 years through 3 different owners. And it's a beautiful building. But after Turner built this complex there, we all know how Lucky's Market went. Well, now we're having another issue. And the great part about this, guys, is that There's Five Guys restaurant right next to them. There's Tropical Cafe. There's Tokyo Joe's right there. No problems at all. They're very respectful. The employees leave when they are done for their shift. But these guys, it's incredible. I could show you these videos. I could show you the photos. And as of this Saturday, going into Sunday morning at 2:45 in the morning, they're raising hell, and the speakers were still on. The music was still on, blasting towards our building.
Okay.
And I'm just begging you guys to address this, please, because I have lost so much sleep. In fact, the young lady that's going to speak next, she's one of my tenants. And I have, like I said, that's 6 other people that would love to speak to you, or however we can address this to get this resolved in a
Okay.
very peaceful way. Please,
Okay,
really need your help.
all right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming tonight. Our next speaker is Mandy Erickson.
Hi there. My name is Mandy, and I don't do public speaking well, but my last name is spelled Erickson. I'm here to back up what Joseph says. I am an essential worker at the hospital. I have lost so much sleep that affects patient safety because of canes. I have made numerous noise complaints to the Wheat Ridge Police Department. They no longer show up. These people are blasting their music, they're street racing in that parking lot. It's ridiculous, and it's inexcusable for a small-knit community. So I would like you guys to please help us. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have anyone else signed up to speak under public's right to speak. If you are here and haven't signed up, you may come to the podium and speak now. If you are joining us online, you may raise your hand and we will bring you into the meeting. So I'll give you just a moment to raise your hand. And I'll ask my clerk if there's anyone. Okay, we don't have anyone coming forward online and there's no one here, so we'll close our citizens' right to speak. And we will go to agenda item number 1. This is our consent agenda item. Councilor Hulteen, would you please introduce this item?
I would like to introduce item number 1, which is our consent agenda. I'd like to introduce consent agenda number 1A, a motion to approve payment to Colorado Intergovernmental Risk Sharing Agency, CIRSA, for 2023 property casualty premium in the amount of $372,363.16. Consent agenda item number 1B, a motion to approve payment to Pinnacle Assurance for 2023 workers' compensation premium in the amount of $263,946. Consent agenda item number 1C, motion to approve monthly payments to Colorado Employer Benefit Trust for 2023 medical dental employee assistance program and life insurance membership billing at an amount not to exceed $2,335,000. Consent agenda number item 1D, resolution number 01-2023, a resolution designating the municipal building main entrance display cabinet as the official public notice posting location and the Jeffco transcript as the official newspaper of general circulation for the city publications in 2023. And lastly, consent agenda number item 1E, resolution number 03-2023, a resolution amending the fiscal year 2023 renewal Wheat Ridge Bond Projects Fund to reflect the approval of a supplemental budget appropriation in the amount of $153,531 for the purpose of extending the contract for professional services to AECOM Technical Services, Inc. in an amount not to exceed $1,987,068 and approving subsequent payments for ongoing program management services for the Investing for the Future program.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve agenda item number 1A through 1E?
Yes, I move to approve consent agenda items number 1A through 1E.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Councilor Weaver. Would the clerk please poll the council?
Mr. Mayor, the consent agenda has been approved unanimously.
Thank you. We will go to agenda item number 2. Councilor Dozeman, would you please introduce this item?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council Bill Number 01-2023, an ordinance approving the First Amendment to the site lease agreement with Verizon Wireless for use of the municipal building cellular tower. At issue, the city entered into lease agreements with 3 cellular companies for replacement of the municipal building cellular tower. Those leases contemplate a start date of February 14th, 2023. Because of supply chain delays, the leases must be amended to allow additional time for this work. Approval of this ordinance will extend the commencement date deadline to June 1st, 2023, and also grants authority for minor changes to the lease as needed.
Thank you. This is an ordinance on first reading to set the date, time, and location for a public hearing. May I have a motion on this item?
I move to approve Council Bill Number 01-2023, an ordinance approving the First Amendment to the site lease agreement with Verizon Wireless for the use of the municipal building cellular tower on first reading, order it published, public hearing set for Monday, January 23rd, 2023 at 7 p.m. as a virtual meeting and in city council chambers if allowed to meet in person on that date per COVID-19 restrictions, and that it take effect upon adoption and signature by the mayor as permitted by Section 5-11 of the charter.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Stites. Would the clerk please poll the council?
Mr. Mayor, the motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. We will go to agenda item number 3. Councilor Weaver, would you please introduce this item?
Thank you, Mayor. I would be happy to. This is Council Bill Number 02-2023, an ordinance approving the First Amendment to the site lease agreement with T-Mobile West LLC for use of the municipal building cellular tower. This is the same issue as the previous one. Do I need to repeat that?
You do not.
Okay.
If you would, instead of that, give me a motion to motion on this item.
I would be happy to do that. I move to approve Council Bill Number 02-2023, an ordinance approving the First Amendment to the site lease agreement with T-Mobile West LLC for the use of the municipal building cell tower on first reading, order it published, public hearing set for Monday, January 23rd, 2023 at 7 p.m. as a virtual meeting and in city council chambers if allowed to meet in person on that date per COVID-19 restrictions, and that take effect upon adoption and signature by the mayor as permitted by Section 5.11 of the charter.
Second.
Thank you. This is a motion and a second by Councilor Hoppe to set the date, time, and location for a meeting. May I have the clerk poll the council? Thank you. We will go now to agenda item number 4. Councilor Hutchinson, would you please introduce this item?
Thank you, Mayor. Council Bill Number 03-2023, an ordinance approving the First Amendment to the amended and restated site lease agreement with New Singular Wireless PCS LLC for use of the municipal building cellular tower. It also has the same issue as the previous
Thank you.
items.
May I have a motion on this agenda item number 4?
I move to approve Council Bill Number 03-2023, an ordinance approving the First Amendment to the amended and restated site lease agreement with New Singular Wireless PCS LLC for the use of the municipal building cell tower on first reading. Order it published, public hearing set for Monday, January 23rd, 2023 at 7 p.m. as a virtual meeting and in city council chambers if allowed to meet in person on that date per COVID-19 restrictions, and that it take effect upon adoption and signature by the mayor as permitted by Section 5.11 of the charter.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Would the clerk please poll the council? Mayor Pro Tem Stites, pardon me. Keep working on that. We will go to agenda item number 5. Councilor Hoppe, would you please introduce this item?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, with pleasure. Resolution number 02-2023, a resolution adopting the Wheat Ridge Affordable Housing Strategy and Action Plan as a guiding document to address housing affordability in Wheat Ridge. At issue, addressing affordable housing is one of the city and state's most pressing issues. The Colorado Department of Local Affairs awarded the city a grant in October 2021 to complete an affordable housing strategy and action plan. This resolution would adopt the strategy as city policy to guide future discussions around affordable housing. I would also like to read just a piece of the financial impact. Adopting the strategy will not have an immediate financial impact on the city. The Colorado Department of Local Affairs, DOLA, awarded a $112,500 grant to the city to complete this strategy with a required city match of $37,500, which is 25%, and that was appropriated by City Council in March 2022.
Thank you. This will be a resolution of the council. It is not quasi-judicial. Mr. Goff, do we have a staff presentation on this item?
We do. Our senior neighborhood planner, Jeff Hurt, is here this evening to give a brief presentation. You've seen a very detailed one a few weeks ago.
Okay.
And as soon as we get our presentation up here, we'll get going.
Okay. While we're doing that, I'll ask the clerk to take off the red button if he can, so we don't tell Mr. Hurt that he's got to stop before he starts. Mr. Hurt.
Appreciate that. Yeah, so Jeff Hurt with Community Development, and I will be brief, but we are here before council tonight to request our first city staff recommendation to adopt the Affordable Housing Strategy and Action Plan as a guiding document for future city decisions related to affordable housing. And so I just wanted to do a brief recap. I know we were just before you about a month ago, but just a brief recap for the benefit of the public that may be watching and for council. Obviously, this has been a really important issue for a long period of time, which is why we went after and were able to get a grant from the state in late 2021 to do this project. We had study sessions throughout 2022, as you're aware, starting in May, where we sort of iterated on this strategy, and you all guided kind of where it landed. Over the course of the summer of 2022, when we were sort of developing the strategy and coming to council, we spoke with a number of developers, and there were opportunities for public input, in particular the conversations with developers to make sure that the recommendations and policies were grounded in sort of the economic realities of our housing market. And then, of course, the study session about a month ago before council, where we presented the draft strategy, and council unanimously supported the action items as presented in that draft strategy. So I know this isn't, the words aren't legible on the screen right now, but just to give you a visual of a key page in the strategy, it's just sort of our work plan going forward for this particular subject. And so the action items are broken down by priority level and with a timeline to them. I will say that, great news that actually 2 of the 4 sort of top tier action items we're already moving forward with. So we're definitely not seeing this as a sit on the shelf type effort. Right after this will be a discussion about creating the housing fund, which is one of the key recommendations. And then on February 6th, actually, we have a study session scheduled with council to discuss some zoning code amendments related to affordable housing in terms of supporting affordable housing. So, and then as far as the next steps go, following tonight, if council adopts the strategy, we have a public communications plan. We'll be letting folks know about the strategy that we're involved, and also the developers we spoke with. We're going to circle back to them and other boards and commissions that we went to. So you'll be hearing more about this after tonight, and happy to talk more about that. So that concludes my presentation. We're happy to answer any questions. We have Eric Amy from CZB, the consultant that we worked with to create the strategy. And Eric, I think, had a couple things he wanted to say, and I'll hang out for questions.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year. I'll be very short. It's not often that implementation of one of our documents or our projects starts before it's adopted. So that is the case here in Wheat Ridge, and that's a very strong indicator of I think the leadership that the council has shown in this project, in this process, in other processes that we've been a part of as well. So we're very pleased to see that. We're continue to be pleased with, have always been and are still pleased and proud of our association with Wheat Ridge. And it's a fun place to work. We've enjoyed working on this project. But again, more than anything, it's clear that you've made a commitment here to something that's very important, and hopefully the community sees that as well. And the last thing I'll say is that your staff team is fantastic. I think I've said that to you before. They really are. They're great. And I think they're smart, creative folks who are going to do a good job with this work that we've left in all of your capable hands. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we go to questions from council, I would like to open this up to comments from the public. I don't have anyone here signed up to speak on this, but if you haven't signed up to speak and wanted to speak, you may come to the podium and speak now. If you're online, you may raise your hand and we'll bring you into the meeting to speak with the council. And I'll ask if we have anyone online. It doesn't look like we have any members of the public stepping up, so we will close that portion and go to questions from council. Councilor Hoppe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to ask that after adoption, will there be a place either on What's Up Wheat Ridge or on the city website splash page where people can easily find the plan to kind of dig into?
Yeah, and I should have put that on the screen. There is a What's Up Wheat Ridge page. You just go to What's Up Wheat Ridge / housing, I believe. So if you go on it's on the main screen there. So there is a project page, and the packet for tonight that includes the draft strategy is already up. But we'll post the final one, and we'll certainly update it reflecting what happens tonight, and probably have something in there about the action plan and kind of a tracking mechanism, if you will, on that page. So.
Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Councilor Hulteen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the brief presentation because we've put in a lot of work on this, and thank you, CZB, for continuing to bring your best so we can be at our best. So the state voters approved amendment Proposition 123 this year, and that directly relates to a lot of the things that are in this recommendation. And it's really not a question as much as it is a request that as this comes back to us, that it's, we're obviously looking at what the state's trying to accomplish. I do know, and maybe this is more under comments than questions, but this is a priority for the governor this year also, and I expect that this year's state legislature is going to be bringing forward different things too. So I know staff does a great job of tracking what's happening at the state, but right now we've got 123 in front of us. So it would be good for us to have a better understanding as the state figures that out. How does that passage impact our opportunities to implement the plan that hopefully we are adopting here shortly? So thanks.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councilor Nosler-Beck.
Mine's just similar to Councilor Hulteen's in that the state legislature just started today, and I know a lot of the state legislators, including representatives from Wheat Ridge, are focusing on affordable housing and more funding and opportunities and resources for this. So the same with 123, that we're just being sure to track any opportunities that we can maybe utilize this plan with at the state legislature would be great.
Thank you. Any further questions? Okay. I'm going to close our questioning, and Councilor Hoppe, may I have a motion on this item?
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve resolution number 022023, a resolution adopting the Wheat Ridge Affordable Housing Strategy and Action Plan as a guiding document to address housing affordability in Wheat Ridge.
Second.
Oh, I think I'm going to go to Councilor Hulteen on this one for the second. Good job. Is there discussion on the motion? Councilor Hoppe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to just point out that if anyone has not seen our study sessions and the work that we had done prior to us adopting this, December 5th would be the meeting that you would want to go watch. You can watch it on YouTube. And that one of, I think, the most encouraging things about this strategy is focusing on revitalization of what is affordable and attainable in Wheat Ridge, but is not necessarily a level of livability that that we would want to be living in. And so part of our focus will be to reinvest in that. And so that's reinvesting in our community directly. So I'm very excited to see the work that comes out of this plan.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Stites.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And as usual, Ms. Hoppe kind of beat me to the punch. She's pretty awesome at doing that. I just wanted to say that one thing I really do appreciate about this is that it reinvests back into our community and the existing housing stock that we already have. And I think that's something that we've identified over the last, certainly at least 4 or 5 years, is that some of our older houses are are needing to be reinvested in. So, and that's housing, that's apartments, that's everything. So I definitely appreciate this plan, and CCB has done a fantastic job as usual. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Councilor Ohm.
Thank you, Mayor. I too want to thank our consultant, CZB, and staff. I know this, when we started this process, I was chatting with Ken Johnstone, our Community Development Director, and he said that we were lucky to have you as a consultant, and I agree with that. Thank you so much. And this document can't come, soon enough. We obviously have a big issue, all of us regionally, to address this affordable housing. And this sends a good message to the community, and to developers that, this is what we want for our community, and we've given them some really good, guidelines. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Dozeman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I unfortunately was ill during the study session that we discussed this on December 5th, but after going back and watching everything and hearing comments, I really appreciate that we are tackling this from multiple angles, and we're allowing ourselves the flexibility to pivot as needed, that we've identified opportunities but haven't set anything, set in stone, anything, like it's not a hard line, and that we've kind of had this multi-phase approach over the next several years, and we recognize that there's a lot of work to do as far as a comprehensive plan and some of these other foundations that we need to lay. Very timely topic and relevant to what's going on regionally and in the state of Colorado. And I really appreciate staff and CZB and my colleagues here on council for really tackling what is a challenging issue facing our community and is going to continue to be in the years ahead. So appreciate all of your work.
Thank you. Councilor Hulteen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So first of all, just again, I want to thank CZB. You guys are great to work with, and you really, I think, demonstrate a commitment to understanding the communities you're working with in a way that sometimes we learn about ourselves through you, and I really appreciate that a lot. And as you demonstrated with the neighborhood revitalization strategy, a plan that isn't actionable is of no service. And so I'm kind of proud that we're ahead of you on implementation a little bit. You've motivated us to really try and get ahead of our issues. So much to what's already been touched on by my peers, one of the things that is really important to me is the reinvestment in our own community, and not just because we have existing opportunities that we don't have to rely on, private investment, but rather we can reinvest in ourselves. But those are existing communities that shouldn't be displaced and should have pride in living here. So it's not just a reinvestment in the housing stock, but actually a reinvestment in our people. And that, I think, is something really important. Right now, weirdly, through my transportation advocacy, I'm doing a lot of work on affordable housing and efficient land use. And one of the challenges that is really hard to try and get right is the displacement piece when you're trying to create affordable housing. So I'm really proud that as a community, we've prioritized not displacing, but rather doubling down on our reinvestments. So I am very much looking forward to continuing to work on this, and am proud to be supporting it tonight. And I just want to thank my peers. When we tackled trying to understand affordable housing just fundamentally in our community, it was a good investment of all of our time, and I really was excited and proud of how we handled it at the study session with the depth of understanding that we had. And I think our community is really going to benefit both in the short and long term from our commitment to try to understand it. So I'm really proud that this is who we are, and I hope other communities across the state can get working on this too, because it is a problem everywhere. Thanks.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? Councilor Hutchinson.
Thank you, Mayor. I am very interested to see how this is going to work, how it's going to be set up, how it's going to be worked with property owners and getting them to agree or be interested in fixing up properties. And I think it's a very positive thing, and I'm just interested in how this is going to flow. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional discussion on the motion? I want to sort of close our discussion. I sit on several region-wide committees and task forces talking about affordable housing and how we might implement it in our community. I'm really proud of our city council for moving forward on this item, for CZB and our community development department for engaging in a great study and a great community outreach to seek input from our fellow citizens on how this might work. I'm really excited, and I want to encourage my council to vote in favor of this motion. So, if there's no more discussion, would the clerk please poll the council? Thank you. Thank you, council. Okay, that concludes our regular business items on our agenda. Let's see, that will take us to city managers matters. Mr. Goff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one update I'd like to provide tonight to the City Council on some organizational changes we're making in the City Manager's office. You were made aware of this a little bit during the budget process, but want to make an official announcement this evening as it was effective January 1. So we're making a few changes to build more capacity in our leadership team to help respond to a more dynamic organization and community and a much more engaged elected body. Thank you very much. First of all, Ali Sheck, where is she? She's over here. Ali Sheck's title has changed, again, effective January 1st from Administrative Services Director to Deputy City Manager.
Let's have a little round of applause for her.
Yes.
You know, she deserves it.
It's the same transition I made many years ago here in Wheat Ridge, so I'm very proud of Ali. Ali has proven, as you all know, over her 4 years here at Wheat Ridge, she has the leadership and management skills to tackle almost anything we are faced with, ranging from a pandemic to ransomware attacks. So couldn't have done it without her. Our organization is in a much better place because of Ali's vision and work ethic. Ali will continue to manage and direct the Administrative Services Department, and we will together evaluate over time what additional roles Ali may take on. She still has a whole list of things she wants to get done, so her role will be potentially changing over the years. Secondly, Mary Ann Schilling. Are you still here, Mary Ann? Where is she? She's over there with the chief. Her title has changed from assistant to the city manager to assistant city manager. Just take out that two.
Let's stop there for just a minute. Mary Ann, if you would sort of stand up.
This change is it's a natural transition in our profession of city management. Mary Ann has, again, for 4 years, grown over the past 4 years plus from a special projects manager to a supervisor, leading and directing 4 employees in several important initiatives, including the city's response to homelessness, sustainability, race and equity, and many other important community initiatives. Mary Ann, in her new role, will provide relief to me and the entire executive management team. Let's see, lost my notes here. Oh, with City Council directed initiatives, special projects, policy research, drafting city manager initiated council action forms and staff memos, etc. She will also direct and lead, which is I think the most exciting thing, our neighborhood resources initiative. This is not a new department or division, but rather a compilation of work and efforts across all departments to address community and neighborhood issues. One action item that Mary Ann has already started at the very new year here is to pull together community to pull together and categorize and analyze all the service requests we receive across all departments to identify trends and potential hotspots across the community so we can more proactively address neighborhood issues. Finally, Mary Ann will provide some relief for the city manager and police chief in dealing with complicated neighborhood issues, pulling together the necessary resources to address issues caused by sober living homes, short-term rentals, accessory dwelling units, or any other things that may happen in our neighborhoods. And finally, to allow Mary Ann to refocus her efforts on these items, City Council, as you all know, approved a management analyst position in our 2023 budget to continue those many programs and initiatives Mary Ann has been working on. So congratulations to both of those folks, and I think we're very excited. Thank you, Council, for your support. Very excited for these changes and opportunities that will provide for our organization. So thank you. That's all I got.
That it? Okay. Thank you very much. City Attorney's matters, Mr. Dahl.
Nothing other than to wish you a Happy New Year.
Well, thank you.
With everyone else.
Yep. Back again. We will go to our elected officials matters. Let me start with the clerk.
Happy New Year to everyone. Otherwise, I have nothing new tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Thank you very much. We will now go to Councilor Hutchinson.
Thank you, Mayor. I also would like to say Happy New Year and also stay healthy. I have had several phone calls or contacts about the snow and ice. And I have seen people walking on the ice that probably shouldn't be walking on the ice. And it's just kind of, I'm curious, I think a year or so ago when we had so much snow, it went by inches, that the plows would go down the side streets. I'm not sure that happened, but it didn't help that we had rain before the snow. And they're calling for that again on Wednesday. So I'm just, and you know, this is like being back east. It's just not melting and it's dangerous, you know. People are walking in the streets, even on 38. Businesses aren't, you know, shoveling, you know, let alone houses, people who can't get out there and things like that. So people are walking in the streets and it's just dangerous. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Nasser Beck.
Thanks, Mayor. I too got quite a few calls or neighbors bugging me, and I just appreciate, I did reach out to staff and appreciate the attention. I realize it's just, this is not normal Colorado weather too on top of that. And so in our neighborhood, we went and tried to go help out some of our neighbors who couldn't clear their pathways too. So I just encourage folks, I know the city's doing everything that they can, but also if you have it in you and it's safe to do so, go try and clear some sidewalks, especially if we have more weather coming in. And I also just wanted to say Happy New Year, and just had an incredible holiday season in Wheat Ridge. We did a lot of shopping locally, and the new Golds whole area was just incredible. And my husband purchased pottery lessons for me at Out of Step Clay, and I really think between Larson Ski and Sport and Golds, we managed to keep it all in Wheat Ridge. And so I just wanted to say thank you to all of those business owners who I know we were visiting on Christmas Eve with last minute gifts and things. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Holteen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will continue the sidewalk complaining, although I'm going to be a little bit more targeted and specific. Something that I just really kind of gets under my skin a little bit are the commercial business owners who have their plows create 6-foot piles of snow in the sidewalk right away, creating a mountain of snow that does not melt for months. And so I don't know if the city has actually been out there proactively. I want to be sensitive to citing people for not shoveling their sidewalks. There's a lot of sensitivity in neighborhoods about elderly people who may or may not be able to, but our commercial properties who actually are hiring people to plow snow into the right-of-way, to me, deserve some attention from the city to encourage them, because that's absolutely preventable. So is that something that the city has given any attention to? Anyone at the city? Anyone?
As Councilmember Hulteen mentioned, that is a violation of code, so that should be citable. And what I'll certainly instruct our staff to do as we're plowing is identify those locations, because it's pretty obvious. And then hopefully our code enforcement can follow up with them and inform them or educate them about the appropriate process to do that and store that on their property.
Okay, I think that would be really helpful. I think a lot of times they're doing that so they don't have to put it in a parking space, but they really do create these like significant pedestrian obstacles, and a snow like we've had, like literally it'll be there for like 6 weeks. So, okay, on to happier things. I just really loved the partnership tonight between Local Works, Five Footage Farm, and the Gazette around acknowledging our youth and art. Like that's the type of community partnership that makes me really proud of who we are as a city, and especially acknowledging the youth in our community. I think, you know, we're really stepping into spaces on how we acknowledge how our youth are part of our civic infrastructure and fabric. And I just thought that was really fabulous tonight. So thank you to all the partners who made that happen. And then just like a weird, it's not weird, it's something you wouldn't expect. So we heard from a neighbor tonight who's a retired physician talking about his excitement about the partnership between Intermountain Health and UC Health. In some of my work across the state, you'd be surprised that physicians have a hard time finding affordable housing in the communities they live in. A lot of times newer physicians are straddled with a lot of debt, and the housing that they can afford is a lot of times not in alignment with the cost of housing in the communities they serve. So when we're talking about affordable housing in Wheat Ridge, we may be surprised to find out who is really going to be a beneficiary of some of the strategies we just adopted tonight. So I'm really glad we got that done, because we want the best doctors at what will be Colorado's best hospital in a couple years. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Dozman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just kind of going along with the theme of snow-packed streets and sidewalks, I did have several residents and commercial businesses along 44th reach out in regards to having shoveled their sidewalks, and then city plows coming along and putting snow back onto the sidewalks, and then them potentially being cited or having code enforcement come by and request that they shovel their sidewalks again, which I know that is their responsibility, but it's really challenging given time constraints and what have you to adhere to those shoveling requirements when it seems as if the city is kind of working against them. With that, I will echo Councilmember Hulteen's gratitude and excitement for the partnership between Five Ridges, the Gazette, and Local Works, and really engaging and activating our youth in this community. I think that they are a demographic that we sometimes tend to forget about, and they have done some wonderful things in our communities, particularly around Anderson Park and art, and now with this scholarship. So I wanted to congratulate those recipients, and also wanted to congratulate Local Works on their new website that launched recently, and I really love their feature of the events calendar. It can combine events all over the city, and you can request to subscribe to it, and then you can also add events, which of course are approved, but a couple coming up this week. So Live Local at New Image Brewery on 44th Avenue from 5:30 to 7, and then the Wheat Ridge Historical Society Fashion Show and High Tea is from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Wheat Ridge Historical Society Bauhaus, both in District 4, so go check those out. And then I actually did want to expand on physician Dr. Fiegler's announcement. We received as a caregiver, we received an announcement that Intermountain Healthcare and UC Health are forming a new partnership to develop a clinically integrated network with comprehensive patient resources. The venture will bring together 700 primary care physicians and hundreds of clinics and hospitals across Colorado, with support from specialists throughout the state. In addition, the partnership will help bring a new health insurance option to Coloradans via Select Health, a subsidiary of Intermountain. So this is going to help more than 300,000 residents lower their costs for insurance premiums and also care across the community. So the access to this network and this partnership, even though these entities are going to continue to operate separately, is going to be wonderful for the Wheat Ridge community and regionally. So we are really excited about that in Wheat Ridge. Thank you.
Councilor Weaver.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am trying to train the goats to shovel as soon as I possibly can. But short of that, it's stock show season. I just want to remind everybody that the best 16 days in January are happening right now, and it's a lot of fun. And you can take the light rail down. So don't forget the stock show. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilor Ohm.
Thank you, Mayor. So yes, I too have had calls about the snow shoveling. My thoughts on it are, to everyone watching and in this room, is that if we want a more inclusive community, we have to, everybody has to have an understanding, and there has to be, there has to be some consequences of not shoveling it. And I totally understand the frustrations of, the city plows a street or a driveway, and then those people have to go out and plow it again. But I feel really bad for the people that are just trying to walk. It might be our elderly or disabled, and what kind of message are we sending them if we're really tolerant of the not shoveling your sidewalk? What I saw after I reached out to Patrick was that I got forwarded to the police officers, and And they started, politely knocking on the doors and putting, hangers on and saying like, there's consequences if you don't shovel, and that the majority of those did get shoveled. I really want us as a city to have a very inclusive, welcoming community, and it takes everybody to kind of get there. The second thing is I got some an email about the speeds on Wadsworth. One of the constituents was concerned that the travel speeds were too high. And I was poking around and seeing what kind of information's out there. It sounds like CDOT doesn't want to reduce that speed. I did see something that was that somebody, a company had done accelerator speeds for GIS, where they use accelerometers, and they were tracking of how cars were deaccelerating or accelerating through certain areas of these cities, and then they could find out which roads needed improvement by kind of understanding that. So as people were slowing down for potholes and such, then they could identify it. We don't have that big of a city. I'm not saying that it's warranted that we go there, but there are data type of devices such as accelerometers. And the last thing I have is that I've been trying to work with Patrick in the city of trying to get some type of sign to measure air quality, and so the CDPHE has an environmental justice grant, and it looks like the city might be eligible for that air quality grant. The idea is to have it measure air quality for the city, and also probably try to have some type of signage that would kind of tell people about what's going on in the city. And maybe that could be even, I'd like to see maybe even dual languages, so Spanish and English, to really have a good representation of our community. And Marianne was working on that. I don't know what the status of that is, but I think that'd be really great for the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Hoppy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just two quick things. City Manager Goff, can you reach out to Bob and see if he can follow up with Joseph, please? Thank you. And then my other question is, and I can't remember it off the top of my head, so you might not be able to remember it, but do we have a time limit of when outdoor amplified music needs to be completed by? Isn't it like midnight? 10? It's 12 on the weekends, maybe. And
Yeah.
so I think that if this is happening at 3 o'clock in the morning, it's against the noise ordinance.
Yeah, it's a good point. If outdoor speakers on patios are considered a violation of, or considered amplified music, we'd have to go back and look at the ordinance to see. I know we tried to craft the ordinance so that restaurants and businesses that just had speakers on their patios for guests, did not require an outdoor amplified sound permit. So we have to look into that.
Yeah, I don't think it needs a permit, but I think
Yeah.
that it has to be
It has a
done by a
limit
certain
still.
time limit,
Yeah,
yeah.
we can look at that. Yeah, and I'm sorry for the gentleman. That was the first I heard of it, that there was still having issues. He had left me a message, said that he had talked to Bob several times and it looked like something was happening, but obviously it hasn't. They do stay open, unfortunately. Raising Cane's does have late hours. I think during the week they're open to midnight. Weekends they're open to 1:30. So I'm not sure why there's still employees there at 4. But we'll get with the police department and Chief's still here and figure out what's going on. And I've already contacted Mr. Turner to see what's going on.
Thank you. And then my other thing is, City Attorney Dahl, in the CML newsletter, there was an article in there about Salazar versus Coleman, and it was about term limits and what the Colorado Supreme Court had done with a case up in Thornton. And I was just wondering if, upon review of our term limits and definitions, if we're in line or if that's something we need to review.
Thanks. I read that blurb from CML as well. I haven't read the decision yet, but my take on it, and I'm happy to follow up, and in fact, in reading it, I thought, I should check that. My take was that it was fairly fact-specific with respect to Thornton's system, but nevertheless, we have a council, we have a mayor, and each city is a little differently positioned. but I'm happy to follow up on that and make certain that the term limits that we have here are consistent with what the Supreme Court's saying.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Stites.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of things, and thank you, Ms. Hoppy, for asking about the Raising Cane's issue. That was my first thing. I want to congratulate the Art Scholarship receivers. I don't know how to say that. But they worked really hard on that, and also the Gazette and Local Works and Five Ridges Farm. That was a great event you guys put on over the summer. I also want to congratulate Allie and Marianne on your title changes, promotions? Promotions? We're going to call it promotions. Congratulations. That's phenomenal. You guys deserve it. You've done a fantastic job. I also had complaints about the snow. I think we've kind of hit it. Let me ask, what to plow the side streets and the residential streets, what's the threshold for the snow?
You want to take it?
Sure. Yes, our current policy says that it's 12 inches or greater. We were, as we measure at the shops building, it was about just under 11 inches. So we didn't meet that threshold. We will be evaluating that policy for next year's snow season, I think to be somewhat weather dependent. So the snow that we received a couple weeks ago was more like a March, or April snow event, really wet and heavy. And as we've all experienced, it hasn't melted. So we may want to consider, when we have these types of very large storm events in the middle of the winter season where we don't have a lot of sunlight, to maybe do something at a lesser threshold. But we'll be considering that in-house and bringing that back before council before next year's snow season.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I know a lot of the residential side streets were, some of them were, some of them weren't, and I know that was kind of a frustration for some of the neighbors that, obviously the ones that got it were pretty excited, but the ones that weren't were very frustrated, so. Who decides? Is that just the plow drivers drop the plow?
No, we have a set of priorities. So we have priorities 1, 2, and 3. And so some of the 3s are regular residential streets, but because they're either a hilly area or they're adjacent to a school or for a variety of reasons, they are considered a tertiary priority. So it may look like we're not doing some and others, but there is a priority. And we will go out in certain cases where there's an emergency situation or people just simply cannot get through and shave those down as well. So we do respond in instances where we're requested.
All right, thank you, I appreciate that. Last Thursday, I was pretty busy last Thursday, but Thursday night, Prospect Valley had their ribbon cutting ceremony and their brand new building. It's absolutely gorgeous. Depending on how you look at it, fortunately or unfortunately, we'll have roughly just over 500 and some students next year. They have a capacity of 600 students. As somebody who teaches in all these elementary schools, I've taught in the old Prospect Valley, and if anybody's ever been in there, the gym shares basically a curtain with the cafeteria, which means if you're trying to teach PE class at lunchtime, you have to have an amplified sound device, and so it's pretty uncomfortable. Ms. Squires, who's the PE teacher there, has a brand new, almost as cool as any middle school gym I've ever been in. So to the students of Prospect Valley who got an extra week off because of the construction project, and they start on Monday, congratulations, but they are excited to start at their new school, and I know many of the Color Strand families that will be moving over there next year are lucky to have a brand new campus as well. Also on Thursday, I attended the business district meeting with the mayor and Councilor Weaver and several other community members. Just so everybody understands what the business district is, we give grants to local businesses to update facades, ADA compliant bathrooms, quite a bit of different things. So we gave out a few grants the other day, and we're lucky to be on that board. And it's one of the favorite things I do in Wheat Ridge because it helps us reinvest back in the community. So if you're a local business owner and you're looking to do any projects coming up in the next year, make sure you reach out to the business district, and Chelsea Bunker is typically our contact person for that. Other than that, while I'm talking about local business, and I thank Councilor Nosler-Beck for buying all of our Christmas presents in Wheat Ridge, but if you can find it, and buy it in Wheat Ridge. Happy New Year.
Thank you. I would like to congratulate our high school winners for the Art in the Barn competition. Great to have them win, and great to have them come and share that with us, so I really appreciate that. I really want to express my thanks again to to staff and to our consultants and especially to our city council for moving the affordable housing strategy forward. I'm really excited about that, having that on the books so that we now have something to a plan to help our community, and I think that will be very, very fortunate for our community. Little note, I have to cancel my coffee with the mayor this coming Saturday. I have another conflict in my schedule, but we will be back in February for our regular meeting. In a sad note, I noticed this week the passing of a longtime Wheat Ridge resident, Joseph Afante, and we want to send our condolences to the family. And I think that is about all of my notes. If we don't have any more business to come before council, we will stand adjourned, and we are going to have a special study session. And let's take about a 5 to 7 minute break, and then we will convene that meeting. So if there's no more business, we will stand adjourned. Okay, I'd like to call to order the special study session for the City Council for the City of Wheat Ridge, Colorado for January 9th, 2023. We have two agenda items, the short-term rental lodgers tax and a drive-by shooting incident in Wheat Ridge. Report on that. Let me go to Mr. Goff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, this first item is in response to City Council direction to bring back a discussion on how to possibly dedicate the revenues from our short-term rentals to specific uses. And I'm just going to, instead of repeating everything, I'm just going to turn it over to Ms. Scheck and let her summarize what we are proposing.
Okay, Deputy Manager Scheck.
Thank you, Mayor. Allison Scheck, Deputy City Manager.
See how
It's
long
gonna
I can
take
remember
some
that, huh?
time to get used to. Thank you. Thanks. Happy New Year. It's lovely to see you all this evening. So yes, exciting. Back in May, if you can believe that, of 2022, we met, and we discussed the short-term rental portion of the city's current 10% lodgers tax. And the purpose of that particular study session back in May was to discuss whether or not the short-term rental portion, which the 10% lodgers tax applies to, should be reduced. In that meeting, ultimately, council decided to keep the 10% lodgers tax on short-term rentals, but retain the short-term rental generated portion from the general fund for housing and homelessness purposes, and you consented to revisit that topic at a later date to further define the purpose. So as a reminder, I'm just going to briefly summarize some of the high points of the memo. Lauren Mikulek is here to help me a little bit with regards to our recommendation this evening, but this won't take long, I promise. As a reminder, the original lodgers tax was set at 5% back in 1986, and in 1998, Wheat Ridge voters increased the lodgers tax by an additional 5%, so they doubled it, to improve infrastructure and increase crime prevention resources throughout the city, with a special focus on the I-70 and Kipling Motel District. So today, 50% of the lodgers tax that we collect lives in the general fund, goes into the general fund. 30% of the total goes into the crime prevention fund, and the remaining 20% goes into the capital improvement program fund. So as 50% of the tax is already restricted to crime prevention and the CIP, the focus of our discussion tonight is really about restricting the use of the general fund portion of the short-term rental taxes generated for, in this case, housing and homeless purposes. We began, as you recall, collecting the 10% tax, lodgers tax, on short-term rental lodging in Wheat Ridge in August of 2021. The city has, through the end of December, collected just over $400,000 in the general fund since August of 2021 through the short-term rental general fund portion of the lodgers taxes. Okay, so it's a decent chunk. We're sort of keeping good track of that because we know that you have plans specifically for that funding. We estimate that short-term rentals, the general fund portion of short-term rental generated lodgers tax, will be about $375,000 per year moving forward. That's a good estimate based on what we've seen in the first 16 months of collection. So tonight, we're prepared with a recommendation of how best to dedicate the general fund STR portion. You adopted the Affordable Housing Plan tonight, and as our consultant and Jeff Hurt mentioned, the plan identifies the creation of the Wheat Ridge Housing Fund as a first priority and early implementation item towards realizing the affordable housing strategy. So it's our recommendation that we create that fund now and that we place all past and future STR, short-term rental, general fund taxes into that fund. And so I'd like to actually, so currently that'll be over $400,000 by the end of the year. You know, we're just now reconciling December's books. It'll be over $400,000 towards, later by the end of this year, it'll likely be closer to, much closer to $1 million. So at this point, I'd like to see if Lauren, if you'd mind sharing just a little bit more about how the plan identifies activating that fund?
Sure. So we've discussed over the last year a few times in study sessions that neither the private or public sector can build ourselves out of the affordability crisis, and we can't legislate our way out of it. So the only way, and it states pretty clearly in the strategy, the only way to close the gap between what housing costs and what households can pay is to identify financial resources. So it is a first priority action step to establish the fund to receive and hold funds, an incredibly important first step. And it's that second priority actions that will kick off later this year and into next year that will continue the discussion on how to deploy funds. So it's very likely that in the 2024 budget discussions later this year, we'll talk about how to identify a housing specialist who can help us identify programs. We've talked a lot about the naturally occurring housing program, but there are certainly other ways to get funds to developers, to landowners, to landlords, to home buyers, to renters, a variety of different programs that we can use to deploy these funds. So with the fund established, if you make that decision tonight, we'll continue to look for one-time and ongoing revenue sources. And then we will, it'll be our next task to work among staff and with you over this year and beyond to figure out exactly what to do with those funds, come up with the guidelines, and fine-tune what programs will look like.
Thank you, Lauren. Appreciate that. So our recommendation tonight is let's create the fund and place, again, the past and future revenues into that fund, and then allow, and then really follow the guidance of the plan to further activate, develop. It's going to take time to develop the policies and the specific uses, potentially the holding entity, how that's governed. We included in the memo, some ideas for how that money could be used, but the goal is to make sure that we're truly doing our due diligence and really following that plan that you adopted this evening. So that really concludes our part of the conversation, and we're here for any questions you might have.
Thank you. So questions from council. Councilor Hoppe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I would just like to say thank you to Councilwoman Hulteen. This was her kind of little brainchild idea before we even had our affordable housing plan even hatched. So I appreciate that. Lots of foresight there. I definitely want to do this. I think this is important. I think that, this is part of we try to do. We like to try to walk and chew gum at the same time. And some of my comments about it is that I think that we have, so we have Foothills Affordable Housing, which they do the big kind of development stuff, and that isn't even in our plan very much for us to do, right? But for the pieces where we can help with property and rehabilitation or potential first and last month's rent to help people move in, or potential down payments to be able to afford to purchase a home, those kinds of things. I really think that I would like to see a group, I feel like our housing authority is something that we could activate to do that work. I don't feel that our housing authority necessarily has the skill set to do ground up development of affordable housing, but I think this type of work they absolutely do. And under the structure kind of is the Wheat Ridge Business District. I was on that board for 10 years. I feel like it's effective. It's well managed by Chelsea Bunker, which is nice to have her in that seat. And so I think that we do this, and I think that whatever oversight group that somebody would apply to, I think needs to have community members in it, and that's why I think that the housing authority would be a good place to do that. Thank you for all your work on this, and I look forward to walking and chewing gum with you.
We'll look for some gum. Councilor Hulteen.
I think Mr. Elm had his hand up first.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Okay. His hand is not as prominent as yours. Okay, Councilor Ohm.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councilmember Hulteen. I remember when she brought this up, I thought it was a great idea, but at that point, the funds seemed pretty small, and this is really, really good news. One of the things that CZB had stated when we first had some discussions was they talked about land, and that is really important. And this is a lot more money than I thought. This is not enough money to buy land, but I'm trying to think, far ahead if there's some opportunities in Wheat Ridge. And we do have some large property where the old Lutheran site is that potentially maybe someday that could, be something where the city could be involved in some type of community land trust where, the city would own that and it could be a benefit to the community. And be something a little bit different than what Councilmember Hoppe was talking about with the foothills. The other question I have is more of a legal question with the funding. So the city receives these funds. Is that going to work similar to kind of what, where we have in our funds right now, where we have the funds and then we kind of spend it out? Or could something be created akin to kind of what I see with the Wheat Ridge Foundation, where there's like a fund set up and those funds are invested and they accrue money, and that initial, whatever that initial dollar amount is not used, you're using the revenue based of, that seed money, so that you would have something more sustainable instead of just, like a checkbook, here's the 400,000, we spend 390, we have 10 left, and then we start back up again.
Yeah, the city, the funds would still have to come through the city. They are city taxes. They would have to come through the city's financial system, but they could be invested based on the city's investment policy. And yes, do exactly what you're stating. We could work with the city treasurer on that. Maybe there's a certain portion that gets invested, so there's a cash, available limit or something for smaller programming, but I think that's something we could definitely look up. And the land trust too, I think is a good idea. This may not have enough money unless we build it up over several years to actually buy property, but it could help buy down the price of some property potentially for certain projects. I think those are all great ideas.
Okay, now Councilor Hulteen, you're on.
Thank you. So thank you, staff and my peers for supporting this and bringing it forward. So obviously I do support the establishment of the Warhof. We'll have to think of what to call it. But I think I'm really excited that we're actually able to, on the same night as we approve the plan, to actually establish this. And I look forward to staff bringing back, sort of developing out what that plan looks like and how we can best use it for the housing, the affordable housing strategy that we just adopted. I do, like Ms. Hoppe said, reactivating in a meaningful way our housing authority, I think would make a lot of sense here. And I can't remember where the governance structures for the housing authority, like what determines the structure of it, but state statute.
Yep.
Do we have any flexibility around expanding it beyond what it is?
You mean membership or
Yeah.
numbers or?
Yeah.
I think it's state statute is pretty specific. There might be a range in there. I'd have to go look again. I can't remember.
It is. I think there is a range, and your home rule, there's some flexibility you have. It's really sort of wanting to know what exactly you'd want to do beyond the statute, and then we can see how we can make that work.
Yeah, I'd be interested as we work towards looking at the full programming of it to just revisit what we might be able to do with our housing authority. And I'm thinking specifically, it is a authority made up of our community members and a representative from council. But I'd be interested in looking at making sure we have community members from our community who live in housing, who are in housing that is representative of the type of housing that we're talking about, to make sure that their voices are part of this. So that's my specific interest, not just to have it be by district, but actually if we could have a demographic representation of some sort, I think that would be helpful.
So membership on the board, or potentially advisory committee, et cetera, that could help funnel those those same
Yeah.
comments, right?
Yeah, yeah, just, I want
Okay.
to make sure that people who are impacted by it are having a voice in how
And
it's
it may
done.
not be necessary to have them as board members if we can structure, I'm not pushing for it, but an alternative, is always the advisory committee that gets comments and doesn't have to then go through all of the governing activities that the board would have to do as well.
Yeah, I do also
Okay.
want to recognize being on boards is a great way of expanding your civic participation, so I wouldn't want to preclude them from participating. So
Okay.
let's look at all options, but I think it's important that we're mindful of that representation. And then I had a third point. Let's see if I remember it. Shoot. All right. Well, if I think of it, I'll raise my little hand again. Thank you.
Counselor Nosler Beck.
Just with using these funds and setting up the fund with the lodger's tax, is it possible to also use, like, to contribute other funds into this same fund so that, if there were opportunities that, like we were talking about with 123 or legislative action, or community members wanted to give to the fund, they could?
For sure. As I think both Ally and Lauren mentioned, we're already starting to look for additional funding, and the legislature is trying to put some more sense to the new housing fund at the state level. So hopefully we'll learn more this year on what's available.
Okay, thanks.
Counselor Dozeman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I must say that I really appreciate us turning our ideas into action, and it is not a surprise that one of our Wheaties leaders, Ms. Councilmember Hulteen, was initiated this, so I really appreciate you bringing this forward. I do have a couple questions in regards to the STRs, and do you know where we are as far as like the cap is with that? And so do we anticipate like a regular stream of income from this?
Yes, thanks. I can pull it up really quickly. It's all online. I know I believe three of the 4 districts have already hit their cap. I think it's District 4 has some left, but yes, 3 of the 4 districts have already hit their cap on the single family home.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in regards to this, is with as far as the state statute, would it be possible to set up our housing authority kind of the way the business district works, in which we're taking applications for either grant opportunities and subsidizing either preservation or some sort of improvements, so long as they have an affordability cap?
Well, I think, and again, I wish I had the statute on my elbow. I could be able to answer these questions a little faster, but other than just the board and how that's structured, I think the statute's a little more forgiving in terms of what the housing authority can then do, really, to accomplish its goals. And I think that I would bet that there's flexibility to basically create a program that advances housing interests and allow that program to be pretty focused on your local needs.
Yeah, and it's also making sure we have the staff capacity to manage that. And as Lauren mentioned, the affordable housing study recommended probably some staffing in the future for housing. And, most of our authorities and boards are volunteer positions, and they're probably working full time, so they're not going to be managing programs and initiatives. So we'll need some staff capacity for that too.
Counselor Hoppe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just to kind of carry on to that, along that thought track, I would be interested to know if at some point while you guys are looking at, I think that we're going to get a consensus to move forward with this, but I would be interested to know as you're looking at developing the development of the program, the structure, who's going to be managing, the funds, whether it's affordable housing, our affordable housing board or not. If at some point you come to a point and you go, well, if we do it under our affordable housing board, then, which has the state statute that it has to be responsible to, then there's these restrictions. Or if you do it this way, then this opens the door, opens the door more. So I would just ask that, be mindful of that. And we were pretty, what did they call us? Scrappy and creative community. And I believe that you guys, if there's a scrappy and creative way to do it, that you'll come bring it to the table.
Councillor Hulteen?
Thank you. I remembered my last thing, and it's really just a small reminder point, but if I remember correctly, Community First Foundation had a first and last month or like deposit program. So just wanted to bring that forward as a reminder, as a potential partner, or to be looking at where we're complementing, could be partnering on that.
Yeah, and I believe they do, and also the Metro Mayor's Flex Fund, also, which the city contributes to already, has some very similar programs that we've been looking at to get some examples.
And to some degree, Community Table, I think, too. I think there's some others. Yeah, there's quite a few. Yeah. And I think that just to add, to a lot of the conversation that's happening, that's what Lauren and I really talked about, is needing time now to evaluate pros and cons of the best kind of board. Also, we want to make sure we get the fund exactly right. We're envisioning this as a special revenue fund, similar to Public Art and Conservation Trust. But we have some work to do to make sure that we hit the nail on the head to give ourselves the best chance of opportunity and flexibility as we're going to need it.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Stites.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Ms. Hulteen, for bringing this forward. I think we're, if nothing else, we have a consensus that that was a great thought. I don't have any questions. Are we ready to make a consensus to move forward?
Nope.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see.
That's okay.
Go ahead. I'll let Ms. Weaver go ahead.
Ms. Weaver.
This might have already been covered, but I just want to make sure in light of thinking about first and deposits and things like that, that one of the issues is places re-evaluating the cost of rent and making sure that, because some people are being displaced in our community from their rents massively going up from, one rent cycle to the next. And I'd like to make sure that we keep our residents in Wheat Ridge. This just happened in the last year, is that many renters were displaced because rents sort of jumped massively in several different places. And so I just want to consider that it's not just sort of the first deposit and last, or whatever you were saying, but that there's this way to keep current residents. I don't want us to just think about new residents needing affordability, is what I'm trying to say. Sorry, that took so much out of me.
Okay. So staff is requesting direction from council on the creation of the WRHF and the placement of past and future general fund STR budget taxes in the fund for future use, sort of in accordance with our direction. Can I show of hands for consensus on that? We have consensus on that? Is there anything else on this item that we should discuss at this time? All right, very good.
Thank you.
Let us move then to our second study session item, and this is a staff report on drive-by shootings in Wheat Ridge. Mr. Goff.
Thank you. City Council requested we bring back a briefing on this. I asked the chief to put together some statistics and data on what we're seeing in Wheat Ridge and the metro area on crime associated with guns and drive-by shootings. And so he has that information for you this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Goff, Mayor and Council. We were certainly given direction to provide information to this body, and I just wanted to start off and say that we don't take any drive-by shooting lightly, as you know. Certainly the safety of our residents in Wheat Ridge is paramount to us. But in light of the constituents' concerns, we wanted to shed a little more light on the issue and just how pervasive it might be. I've given you a staff report. I hope everybody had a chance to read it, so I won't cover that again. But I hope to shed a little more light on the subject at hand. So I did have an opportunity to meet with the homeowners who were here, or the homeowner and her husband who were here presenting public comment several weeks ago to discuss their concerns, and they're a lovely couple, quite honestly, and they were very happy to meet with me, and really they're interested in the scope of the problem the same as the council is. So having met with them, I understand the concerns that they have, as we understand the concerns of anybody who's a victim of this. Nomenclature would say drive-by shooting. I think in the police industry, we would say these are illegal discharge of firearms at a residence. So as we looked at that, we wanted to make sure that we understood, that the council understood that we balance all of these issues against our resources. Obviously, we are not an unlimited resource, and we compete with ourselves to determine what problems are most pervasive and most solvable, while still working on the ones that are less solvable and less pervasive. So the first thing we did was define the scope of the problem. So in looking at, that didn't work. There we go. In looking at some of the numbers, I think this helps us to understand exactly what are we talking about in Wheat Ridge, how pervasive is this problem. So it's hard to do without context. So we pulled in Arvada and Lakewood. No intent to embarrass any of our peers, but this just gives you an idea of where Wheat Ridge stands when it comes to calls for shots fired. As I alluded to in the staff report, shots fired calls are sometimes mistaken for fireworks and other noises as well. We understand that. So in Wheat Ridge in 2021, we responded to 67 case reports, 73 calls for service around shots fired. In 2022, that number went down to 54 case reports and 110 calls for service around shots fired. Over 30% of those calls, or actually probably a little bit more, come around the holidays when we see a lot of fireworks activity. That would be New Year's and 4th of July. So we do often respond to these calls and find out that from other neighbors or from Ring cameras that they're actually fireworks and they're not necessarily discharges of firearms in general. So this is just general. This has nothing to do with our illegal discharges at residence, but this is just sort of an idea of how many shots fired calls we get in the city of Wheat Ridge. To put maybe a little bit finer point on that, we look at the shell casings we recover. And we have our fine crime analyst who looks at shell casings that we recover. Again, in Wheat Ridge in 2021, there were 19 calls for service around shell casing recoveries, and in 2022, there were 18 calls for service around shell casing recoveries. That's really why I bring that up. It's a good indicator of when we actually have shots fired calls. It doesn't encompass everything, but it shows you the number of times that we're actually able to recover shell casings. And when we get those shell casings, each and every one of them, we enter them into NIBIN, which is the National Integrated Ballistic Information Network. What that does is match those ballistic shell casings up across the nation. It's a federal system, and it can tell us if that gun was fired anywhere else in the country, if somebody entered those shell casings. And as a profession, we almost all do that now, enter our shell casings into NIBIN. So defining the scope of the problem, you'll see the calls for shots heard or shots fired around the city. This is 21 and 22. So this is 2 years worth of calls for shots fired. Why I think this is relevant? Because you can see that there's no one particular area that stands out for gunfire in the city of Wheat Ridge. These are certainly a few clusters we see, but generally speaking, everybody has called us at some point over the 2 years for shots fired. I think this is probably the most telling here. So I want to be clear. There's random shots fired into a residence, which is what our constituent was alluding to on Teller Street. This is where we don't have a known offender, either because we have interviewed the subject of those or the victim of those shots fired, or we work in a case around it, or we subsequently find somebody and detain them or arrest them for any type of discharge. Random shots fired of the kind that we talked about a couple weeks ago, the total number in the city of Wheat Ridge for 21 and 22 was 7 at residence. Of the 7, 3 of them were a single gunshot that couldn't be associated with the sound of gunfire. In other words, somebody came home, somebody was doing work on their house, subsequently found what we believe to be a bullet hole in their residence. So there's no time, the time frame could be any number of years. So this is the random one. We had 4 incidents of targeted gunfire at a residence. Several of them, 2 of them were on Otis Street last year. And you can see again how they're spread across the city. These are the illustrative picture there is random gunshots, and they're not in one place. They're around the city. We had a couple that were serious. We had on Harlan, we had a couple that was targeted over there for no reason, random again. And again on here you see the 2800 block of Teller Street is on there as well. So that's kind of more of the scope of the problem around illegal discharges at residence. And we illustrated one of those here where a bullet went through a window. There's several other instances where we believe them to potentially be fireworks, but we couldn't disprove or disprove those. These are shell casing recoveries around the city of Wheat Ridge. Again, this is 21-22 data. So if you look at the upper left-hand corner, you can see the key there is shots fired entering a residence. Those are the ones we already illustrated. The blue is shots heard and a shell casing was recovered. So we verified that there was in fact shots fired in those areas. And the green is shots heard, but then subsequently no casing recovered. Doesn't mean it's not possible. Certainly shell casings can fall inside a vehicle or can be from a revolver. We tend to not see very many revolvers on the street nowadays. It's almost all semi-automatic handguns when we talk about shots fired calls. So again, why I bring this up is there's no one area to target in the city if you can look at all these dots and where they are represented across the city. Gunfire is pervasive in every community across the metro region and beyond, and it's really a product of our current environment. Guns are certainly easily accessible and often fall into the hands of the wrong people. So that's the point of that particular slide. I'll skip to the last one here. This is the 2800 block of Teller Street. And we did, obviously that blue area is a radius we did around Teller Street because I believe the constituent, and I know in subsequent conversations, there was concern about a comment that the detective made that this might be a more frequent occurrence. In talking to that particular detective, he's a long-term detective and one of our best, but his memory goes back years and years, so he's cataloged events over dozens of years. So when he says there's many of these events, he's talking about over years. So this is the actual number of calls for gunfire within that blue box radius there. We had 2 shots fired call, one at the particular residence there, and we had one later that we believe was actually fireworks. Again, a lot of these calls come in, we have to determine whether it's fireworks or not. So in defining the scope of the problem across the city of Wheat Ridge, we look at the shell casings recovered, we look at the number of gunshot calls we got, and complaints we got, and here in the area that we're talking about with the new homeowners, this is what we see. And majority of calls in their area over the course of 2 years were follow-up medical calls, welfare check, alarm calls, the kind of calls that we would call either nuisance calls or low-level crime calls in those areas. So again, I want to illustrate that that's not an unsafe, particularly unsafe area. So when we talk about who is doing any type of discharge at a house, it's really hard to nail that down. There's not a lot of apprehensions region-wide. When you talk to Lakewood, Arvada, Denver, we don't catch a lot of people. in vehicles often unidentifiable. Either they're stolen, or the tags don't match, or they don't have tags on them at all. Those are vehicles for which we don't pursue. So a lot of, that word is out in the community. That when they discharge from those vehicles, they tend to be covered by the car. So even Ring cameras or other, highly high-profile cameras are unable to determine who is actually doing the firing. So we might get a very vague description of a type of vehicle, and that's it. And we try and match that with our peer agencies to see if they've had a similar incident with that type of vehicle. But that's the best we can get. We'll run things through our license plate reader around that time to see if there's something we can verify through license plate. But again, often those are either obscured or missing from some of these vehicles. We find a lot of juvenile activity. A lot of it is posted on social media. And some of these accounts are very difficult to trace. We're lucky to have a forensic computer examiner. Detective Raina Johnson worked for us, and she does the work that she can. But some of these accounts are really difficult to get at without enough evidence to get a court order to go further with them. So, but we do know that we have seen evidence of postings that we've gotten from some of our peer agencies of, I don't want to say it's a juvenile prank. It's obviously a serious crime, but they post it and then they post themselves doing it, and it seems to be something that is prevalent in certain groups. As we talk about these issues, as a police department chief, we always want to have a solution. I want to bring solutions for each and every problem that comes up. This is a tough one. These are random acts. They're nothing we can prepare for. They're so spread out around the city that it's difficult. I talked to the residents about, crime prevention. They asked about cameras. They asked about lighting. We always encourage, a review of anybody's residence, and we will do that ourselves. We certainly encourage lighting if it's necessary. In this case, it may or may not help. Living on a thoroughfare is certainly difficult because people tend to travel those more often than they do side streets, and we see a lot more of the activities on our thoroughfares. So when we talk about solutions in this case, there's not a whole lot, to be honest with you. There's not a lot we can do to get at these particular crimes. I can say, reverting back to the NIBIN issue, which is the really cataloging of the shell casings that we recover, that's our best lead now, and that's a new lead. It's something we haven't had in the past. In the particular case, I will tell you, on Teller Street, the shell casings we recovered from that illegal discharge at that residence demonstrated that gun was used in another region of the Denver metro area, as well as up in the, I believe it was the Evergreen area. Sorry, Mr. Dahl. Up in the Evergreen area. So those guns tend to pass hands, or they're really mobile for other reasons, but they weren't associated with the same activity. One was a discharge into a vehicle that was unoccupied for no other reason than to shoot out the window, it appeared, and another one was just a discharge on the street that didn't seem to enter any residence or anything like that. So, but we do get a lot of leads out of that. Ultimately, what comes of that is if we can connect that shell casing to a case where we actually, somebody in the region catches somebody with that weapon, we can start to trace it back. So these cases don't necessarily close, but we work them as hard as we can, as far as we can. A lot of that work is looking to our neighbors to see if they have something similar, if they've caught anybody, and we can work that to the end, either tracing that gun back or tracing that person back. So that said, that's the scope of the problem. I think from a police perspective, it's certainly not a problem that's prevalent in Wheat Ridge. We don't get it a lot. And when we do, our officers do a good job of getting there in a timely manner and recovering the evidence that we can, and working with the folks who are in there. But I understand the fear of the people who are certainly victimized by this. I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Questions, Councilor Hoppe?
Thank you. It's not necessarily a question, but Chief, first off, thank you for this report and for the depth that you went into this report. I appreciate it. After reading the report, there were two things that you had highlighted in here that are things that we can do that can make it a little less encouraging for these types of crimes. And one of them was lighting. So like we have our street light program. Another one was neighborhood watch program, which I understand has a lot of fallout. People get really excited about it at first, and then, you know, they get busy or move on to other things. But so here's my question is, how do we have, as a community, strengthen our neighborhood watch program? Like, how do we support the police department to strengthen that neighborhood watch program? And how do we get the streetlight request program, which, like, had that not come up during budget season, I don't know that I would have even known that we had it. I knew that we had speed bumps, but I didn't know that we had streetlights. And so, how do we get that information, push that information out more? Like, is there something we can maybe do through Jeff Hurt's department, where we can do some sort of focus on neighborhood safety and crime prevention, like through Neighborhood Watch? And here's, you know, along with speed bumps, we also have, because if you have speed bumps also, people aren't going to be trying to speed away down your road. And if we have, you know, the streetlight program, if you feel like it's too dark. So, you know, I believe the police department's doing a good job with the tools they have, but I feel like as community leaders and as a city, that we should start trying to promote some of these other things that would support the police department in making these areas safer.
If I can just address the Neighborhood Watch issue. When I came here, Neighborhood Watch was certainly struggling quite a bit, and we've seen an uptick again in Neighborhood Watch. So we promote that. I actually spoke to Claire about that and about how that could be beneficial. For example, they had that vehicle that committed the crime been loitering in the neighborhood, people would be more apt to call if they were a member and they had a relationship with us. It does go hand in hand with relationship-based policing to have these type of things. So when I started here, we've actually encouraged that, and we've seen it's a much more robust. But your question was, how do we get more people involved in that? I think a lot of that is incumbent on the police department to go out and continue to manage these folks, because even though the neighborhood needs to have a real point of contact who's very engaged, or we lose the entire neighborhood watch, the police department has to push our engagement there. So our crime prevention is working on that, but we've seen that uptick, and we've seen positive results. It's proven to work, Neighborhood Watch. It's not a panacea. It doesn't solve all the problems, but it gives us a force multiplier of eyes out there, and we tell people what to look for and how they can help us through describing, maybe the suspects in those type of crimes. So we continue to work on that. As far as the lighting and how you get it, it's really out of my hands.
Sure.
We do CEPTED, and we do our crime prevention through environmental design and recommend that some of those things, but I think Mr. Goff probably might have more information than I would.
Well, and I think, we have real opportunity in, like, with what we've built with the Let's Talk Neighborhood program to support the work that you guys are doing and to try to help, with the Neighborhood Watch stuff. And so, I think that there needs to be some sort of perhaps like crossover, like some administrative and police department kind of crossover to try to get these programs a little more well-known and to help get people more involved.
Thank you. I have Councilor Hulteen and then Councilor Weaver.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for putting this together on short notice. I have a question a little bit tangential to Ms. Hoppy's. Has there been any analysis or any common indicators about, are there certain types of houses or house features that create attractive sort of opportunistic targets? Of course I came home the night after the woman came in and shared her story, which was just horrifying. And I realized my house facing the street, I just have these little small windows, but I have this gigantic picture window, but it faces my yard, not the front. And so is there any analysis about and I ask in part because I've had my back windshield shot out twice, just parked on a street when I was living in central Denver. And so I just know there are people just drive around and shoot stuff to shoot stuff. But is there any data about, like, is there any common elements between the random, like the features of the random houses, or?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm
we.
sorry, I'm rambling, but I think you know the question.
No, we spend a fair amount of time looking for that, and our Detective Slavsky, who's working this case, I talked to him at length. What are we looking at for these, at least R7? What are we looking at across the exercise? So this particular house that we got public comment on is a new build. So there's no history there. Like we wanted to look, was somebody who lived there before a problem? It's a new build, so we don't have that. There was a second shooting of an elderly couple up on Harlan Street, and that's a different style house altogether. It's a different set of circumstances, and then we look at the other houses, and we're looking for anything that we can think of, but the randomness of it really strikes us as really the common denominator. It's just so random that you're really having trouble finding the commonality. We look for that in a lot of different crimes, and this one especially, to try and give us some indicators of where we might be able to prevent this, or where we might focus our attention, and we just haven't found that.
Great, thank you.
Counselor Weaver.
I'm going to preface this comment with saying that I watch way too many British police dramas. So, but no, you mentioned the Ring cameras a couple times, and I was just curious. I know that there's issues, or I have cameras at my house, and that has provided me with a lot of information, and I'm just kind of curious. Are having those things available to the police, is that helpful? I guess my larger question is what can we do as citizens with these random acts that would assist in helping you identify these people? And sort of what's the lengths that we can go to as far as, the Ring cameras are what, 5 or 10 feet? I have cameras at the farm that go a little farther than that, but I know that there's some rules outside your own property boundary, and I was just kind of curious, what are things that citizens can do that are helpful for you in these random acts, since there's no controlling them?
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. Obviously, high-resolution cameras, and I wouldn't call Ring cameras a high-resolution camera. You can't get a license plate off of a Ring camera. We might get a vehicle make and model and color, which is helpful. But as far as what citizens do, I think it's cost prohibitive for the average citizen to try and install a camera like that. And generally, most cameras aren't pointed at the street. They're pointed around your property where you want to protect. So, it's hard to ask citizens to do something that I really don't know that they would do. But we ask, people to pay attention to the abnormal and call us. If you see people loitering in your neighborhood, we ask for that all the time. I know that we don't always get there right away because we have a priority list, but still that information is invaluable. We'll go back and look at it and see, okay, this matches an incident that might have occurred somewhere else, and they did get a tag. So being a good witness is really one of our top priorities, is somebody to go out and know what exactly we're going to ask them. Personally, we like to find, markings that would be dissimilar on vehicles, right? Or persons that would be identifiable by clothing, because you're not going to see their face. So we ask people to be good witnesses, and they don't always know what that means. They're not looking for the things that we are, but things that stand out to us where we can match it with other crimes is what we ask for our citizens.
Thank you, Councilor Ohm.
Thank you, Mayor. Chief, does the PD have mobile plate readers?
Yes, we actually have one, and we have another one that we've got a grant for that's in the works through our I think it's through CAPAW, which is an acronym for one of our many task forces, or one of our many agencies out there. But we'll have two. We also have license plate readers, stationary ones, up around I-70 and Kipling as well. So we see great benefit in solving crimes with that tool, where we've been able to. But again, if you ask me where would you put a high-resolution camera or a stationary LPR, it wouldn't be on Teller and 29th. We just don't have the crime there. It would be in our hotspot areas. So.
Mayor Pro Tem Sights.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chief, thank you for putting all this together. I know it was over the holidays and everything, but I feel a lot better after looking at the kind of the hard numbers than obviously I think we all did a couple weeks ago when we heard the story and that there was shootings all over the place at all times. So we definitely appreciate that. I agree with Ms. Hoppy. I think it would be good to use that neighborhood engagement tour. And part of it was to, I think initially to get feedback from our residents, but it was also kind of another way to push out information to our residents. So if we can get more information about the neighborhood watch, even the traffic management program, all that stuff, if Jeff and Ashley, as they're going back through maybe and doing another tour, can give out information and maybe have one of the officers with them at some of those meetings or at one of those meetings to talk about that a little bit, I think that would be really helpful. So that people understand the steps, because I know you have to have like a block party and a meeting, is that right, to start that process, and then it kind of goes from there?
You really have to, you have to have the person, the people lined up to get it done. And sometimes that's us helping to find people to line it up. But, if people are interested and there's just a few, we can help them expand their pool so there's enough to get that done and get the group town hall meeting or block party, however you want to call it, together and start from there.
Thank you for your help.
Yep.
Thank you. Councilor Hutchinson.
Thank you. This particular street has 3 humps on it from 26th to 29th, I believe, okay? But the way, when it's dark now, I mean, it's pitch dark, okay? There is a street light across the street from this residence, but the light's not that bright, okay? And I don't know if that's something that XL did or whatever, but it doesn't show up so much. I also see some street lights that are in trees, and so it doesn't shine all the way around, okay? Maybe part of the lighting is seen on the street, but especially on a corner. You might not see the other side of the corner. There are also streets, like from 26th to 29th, that have absolutely no street lights. I have to use my bright lights when I go down the street at night. That's really dark. So to be able to see out there what's going on, unless people have pole lights or, motion detector lights or whatever, it's pitch dark. There's no way you're going to see anything. Now at Christmas, when people had Christmas lights, you could see,
Right.
some things. But when it's dark, it's dark. You don't see people walking around, and people can be traveling in cars with their lights off, eh?
Yeah.
We
certainly are advocates of good lighting. I know it's an expense, so I can't, I can't spend money that we don't have, but advocates of, lighting, because if you go down the alleyways, some of the alleyways that are closer to Denver, at night, we find nefarious actors in those alleys, and we know that they're working under the cover of darkness. So, exposing them helps, certainly, where we can, but, I think that would be a massive city project to get everybody the street lighting that, we would like, but I don't know that even all the citizens would want that much lighting, but it does help us.
They wouldn't want to have lights
I
on their
don't know.
street.
I think,
Okay.
I think there's probably some people
No?
who really like the,
Okay.
the darkness of the night, and there are some that want.
Well, what about when they're in trees? And, what's the purpose, eh? You come to a stop sign and you're going to turn, you can see on one side if you're going to go right, but it's totally black on the other side. So you don't know if somebody's walking or, because people wear black at night too,
Right.
okay? It's
Yeah.
safety.
Yeah, and I don't know if you mean on a pole light that's obscured by a tree that needs to be trimmed, or
Yeah.
if it's, yeah.
Yeah, street lights, yeah, that are in the neighborhoods.
I'm not even sure who would be responsible. Some of those I'm sure would be state lights, and some of them might be city lights, and so we'd have to look at each one of them and have people go around and survey them to see. But it seems like a never-ending battle as the trees grow. They start to obscure in different places, and then we trim them, and they pop up somewhere else. So
Well, one thing about having lights, though, you can be inside your house and you can look out and you can see what's going on. And
Yeah.
if it's perfectly dark, you can't see anything.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yep.
So you don't know what's going on.
I think it certainly makes people feel safe and probably adds a level of security to them as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Additional questions for the chief or staff? Chief, thank you very much for a good report. Sorry, we live in a world where you've got to have reports like this, you know, but we are here, and this does put it in a good context. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. That should conclude this item. Let me go back to my agenda and see, Mr. Goff, do you have some staff reports?
Nothing more this evening. Thank you, Mayor.
Nothing more. Okay, let us go to elected officials. If you have another report or fail to complete all your duties before, I would love to close my eyes and hit the road, but Councilor Hulteen.
Thank you. I'll be fast. I actually forgot. I would like to, Mayor Pro Tem, I would like, and I believe I have a second with Ms. Hoppy, to ask Sustainable Wheat Ridge to come and talk to us about their plans for the year. So if you could add that to future study session.
Who?
Sustainable Wheat Ridge.
Oh.
Report out. Yeah, report out.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Any further business that we need to attend to, Mayor Pro Tem Stites?
Just real quick, we don't have a meeting next Monday. It's Martin Luther King Day, and then our council retreat is next Friday, the 20th, and Saturday, the 21st, and we'll be at Colorado Plus on Friday and the Senior Resource Center on Saturday.
Okay, terrific. Look forward to a really good retreat. We will be back here at a regular meeting on the 23rd, I believe, of January. Does that sound right, Mr.
Yes.
Goff? Okay, is there any more business to come before our study session? Then I will adjourn our meeting. Everyone, please drive home safely or bike home safely.